Hello, my creepy friends. I'll be doing a few short stories, all written by Elenya00. End of the world. The apocalypse was here, more unpredictable than anyone had guessed. There was no pattern. Randomly, people had started describing seeing a white light and had died shortly after. Now you may think, that sounds a lot like what people describe when they're dying. The thing about it, however, is that people started dying after it first shows. After that, people, healthy or not, died. They were beyond saving. I had lost my entire family to it. My world. I wandered on the tracks. The train here used to pass every 4 hours. Now, I haven't been walking on this track for 4 hours yet, but I hadn't heard it pass from the distance. I could only imagine the chaos in other parts of the world. I, of course, didn't have any way of knowing. There was no signal anywhere. It was the end of the world. I don't know why I'm still alive. Why me, but not my healthy son? Why was there no logic in it? Would anyone even survive? I didn't want to wait until it got me. I don't even know why I haven't ended it yet. The world is gone. Even if the death stopped, it wouldn't go back to normal. I wouldn't be having dinner with my family, ever again. Oh, how I regretted not eating with them that last time. A light. So, I wouldn't have to go through the effort myself, at least. The light was getting bigger. I stood in the middle of the tracks, facing the light. I smiled, knowing I'd see my family again. The light engulfed me. Police are currently investigating a man who supposedly poisoned his entire family. He kept a detailed journal describing his family's last moments. We got our hands on one of the pages where he had written, "It's the end of the world," multiple times. After watching his family die, he stepped in front of a train. He did not survive. The park. The park was a semi-popular hangout spot, usually frequented by teenagers, whether it be for the seclusion it offered or the creepiness it radiated. Occasionally, it had older people as well, mostly those that filmed themselves at creepy places, hoping to gain a large following. I was one of those. I had done my research and stumbled onto this place, the park. Such an unoriginal name. It was an abandoned theme park. Although abandoned may not be an accurate description, I thought, seeing bottles, food packages, and condoms scattered around. My friend Miranda said she'd join me tonight, but there had been no sign of her yet. Right now, it actually was abandoned, me being the exception. Despite all their boasting, there were never any teenagers here after midnight. I walked around looking for a place to start filming. There was a shop that had doll heads arranged at the windows. Creepy enough, but somewhat overused. Maybe I'll check it out if I can't find anything else. They looked so real, so unnerving. I followed their dead gaze. Then I saw it, the Ferris wheel. There was a slight wind shaking the carts, releasing eerie creaks. It almost sounded like a sort of howling. So I set up my camera. I filmed it for a bit. With some editing, I could turn the shaking carts into a loop. While checking whether it was set up right, I noticed a light, almost like a flashlight, coming from one of the top carts. I also thought I heard a giggle riding the wind. Did the wind increase in power? Weather reports had been promising. One of the carts seemed to move more than the others. Had that been the one where the light came from? I heard a giggle again, clearer this time. I couldn't suppress a smile. Miranda had come, after all. How had she gotten up there, though? Nothing else to do than climb through the framework. It wasn't unusual for us to climb the highest places we could find. Aerial photos have their own kind of creepiness, after all, revealing things you wouldn't have noticed from below. It was cold up here. The wind had definitely increased. I was surrounded by howls. Miranda sure had a talent for finding creepy places. More giggles. She must be loving the view. Me, sweating and shivering, occasionally blinded by her flashlight. I pulled myself into her cart. It was shaking precariously. I froze. She was in the cart, sort of. Or, well, her body was. Her head was gone. Giggles came from the cart above me, and I was blinded by a flashlight. Emergency plan. Me and my husband had made a plan for every emergency we could think of, where we hid a weapon in case of home invasion, who'd take which kid in case we needed to get out quickly, that sort of stuff. We thought ourselves foolproof. We had made a terrible mistake. I remember waking up, fire alarm beeping loudly. We didn't talk. I just went down the hallway to grab our newborn while calling emergency services. He went upstairs to the attic where our other kids slept. I went through the back door, expecting them to arrive any moment. Flames came out of the kitchen and quickly spread out. They didn't come out. I started getting nervous. In the distance, I could already hear the fire truck, but still, no husband and kid. I decided to move to the front of the home, at least to talk to the firemen. Maybe they had gotten stuck, trapped by the fire. In our front garden, I found our other kid. Had he gotten out himself? He looked ecstatic when he spotted us. "Mommy, Mommy, you're here. Daddy was scared when he didn't see you here, so he went back in. Did you see him?" Horror dawned upon me as I realized we never said which exit we'd take. Before I could call out to him, the house crumbled under the fire. I am a monster. I am a monster. I have killed my mother, father, and sister. I don't even remember doing it. I had taken sleeping pills that night, and when I woke up, they were dead. My clothes and hands were covered in blood. The court had ruled me mentally unstable, so now I will remain in a private institution. It's a fancy word for a prison with other mentally unstable criminals. Whether it's for our own safety against sane criminals, or for theirs, I don't know. I suppose it doesn't matter anyway. It's strange. I can't remember ever having suddenly snapped into a different state of mind. In group therapy here, I sometimes hear people say they had signs beforehand, but I can't remember experiencing that. Or is that specifically caused by my mentally unstableness? I don't know anymore. Speaking of therapy, I'll be led to personal therapy any moment now. My therapist is an ex-girlfriend of mine. Can you believe it? Back when I had broken up with her, she had been very manipulative. At least she's doing good now. She had tried contacting me very often. I always refused. A guard led me to the room. They had strict orders not to talk to any of the patients. As usual, I greeted him politely. He never spoke. but he seemed more relaxed near me than with any other patients. I guess most people here aren't as polite or calm, or they were too drugged and on the verge of collapsing any moment. When she saw me, she smiled. She seemed to enjoy my presence. After exchanging pleasantries, she asked me a familiar question. "Do you remember anything new?" As a matter of fact, I did. In the morning, something gnawed on my mind. The medication made it hard to think too much. She was tapping her foot against the table, making me glance at it subconsciously. Those shoes. That's it. I remember when I gulped. When I found the bodies. I ran up to them, but my prints weren't the only ones. What do you mean? Evidence suggests they didn't die immediately. Were the prints their own? No, they weren't wearing shoes. Neither was I. It looked like sneaker prints. Like yours. She narrowed her eyes. That confused me. She usually just nodded, almost smugly. She finished writing something down and looked up. "I think the stressful environment is impacting your mind. To calm your mind, I'm prescribing you more medicine. This is not negotiable." A little while later, a nurse came in. The dosage of pills was double the normal amount. The nurse smiled at me sympathetically. After I ingested the medicine, she left. My therapist cleared her throat. "Now, repeat after me and remember, I am a monster. I killed my mother, father, and sister." So I did. Scarecrow. Growing up in a rural area, there are many scary stories intended to keep children inside when it's getting dark. Usually, they include the famous, "It's true, it happened to," insert acquaintance here, with no way of confirming, of course. I did always feel uneasy walking home from my best friend's house, as if someone was watching me. But as a kid, I always had curfew, so I'd be home before dark without any issue. As a teenager, however, I had gotten bolder. I started avoiding my curfew, that was still set at sunset. One of us. Now, walking through the cornfield, I regretted it. The feeling that haunted me during daytime was much stronger. My mind sensed someone near me. I couldn't help but look around continually. That's when I noticed the Scarecrow, or rather, the lack thereof. Where there had been an eerie-looking scarecrow, there was now empty land. Had someone removed it? One of us. Something rustled in the corn behind me. I bolted. Initially, I kept to the path, but I soon ran into the corn itself, as there was a shadow on the path before me. Stalks hit me in the face, scratching my arms. Had corn always been this sharp? I felt blood trickling down my arms. My clothing was scratched all over. Suddenly, I was in a wide clearing. I stopped and tried to orient myself. It was dead quiet. Still, my back itched as if someone was right behind me. One of us. In a blink of an eye, I was surrounded. There were 4 of them. One in front of me looked like Lily, a girl who had gone to some big city a month ago. Rumor was that she had escaped her parents, as no one had heard of her since she left. I understood now. She never left town. Neither did the others around me. The one to my left, though, I didn't know. But I knew it didn't matter. I'd find out soon enough. With my ripped clothes and dirty face, I already looked like one. Now, I was going to become one. It felt oddly peaceful, as if it was meant to be. One of us. Good behavior. I was enjoying the morning quietness with a cup of coffee when I heard a letter being deposited. I enjoyed a few more sips of coffee in peace before checking it out. It turned out to be a letter from the government. I had my suspicions to what the letter may contain. My hands shook as I opened it. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Baker, we hereby inform you that Nicholas Smith has earned prison time reduction on account of good behavior. In a week's time, he will be a free man. As his deeds involved a close relative of yours, we deemed it necessary to inform you of this development. I didn't read more. It had been exactly what I thought it would be. I sat down, memories flooding my mind. The investigation had been long and messy. At a certain point, they actually accused Sophie's brother of the deed. That had been nonsense, of course, but the investigators hadn't known that at the time. I checked the date of the letter. It was sent February 1st. I couldn't believe my luck. The letter somehow hadn't gotten through until now. It was foolish of the Bakers not to lock their back door. But then, they didn't know there was a killer on the loose. Thank you everyone for listening to these short stories. Please give thanks to the amazing author that let me use these on my channel. Have a good night, everyone. Love, the Mistress.